Hey everybody, welcome to Board Game Heaven. My name is Raymond, and in this video I'm taking a look at Sail or Die by Andreas Preiss from Loosey Goosey Games. It's a quick card game for 2 to 5 players that plays in about 20 minutes for ages 10 and up. And before I start explaining how to play the game and share my thoughts on it, I'd like to ask you to please hit that subscribe button if you haven't subscribed already. That really helps the channel. And please also check out my Patreon page by clicking the link in the description below. And Patreons of my channel can support me starting from €1 per month, and you get early access to all of my videos, access to Patreon exclusive content, your name in the credits as well, and you also save up for the exclusive Board Game Heaven enamel pin. And with that out of the way, let's set up a game. To set up a game of Sail or Die, let's first have a look at what components this game has. It's mostly cards and some of these crystals here. So there are 7 suits, which are indicated by these symbols, and they all have their own color. And there are 7 cards of each suit in the game. And there's a couple of wild cards here, which represent 1, 2, or 3 cards of any color. And there's 3 of these, 2 of these, and 1 of these in the game. Every player can have 15 of these victory points, so there's 5 different colors, so you can play up to 5 players. And the pink shark is the starting player marker. So every player picks a color and takes all of those victory point chunks, and then the unused colors are returned to the box. Decide who gets to be the starting player and give that player the shark token. Then shuffle all 55 cards well, and depending on the number of players, the starting player deals out cards. For a 2 or 3 player game, every player gets 14 cards. For a 4 player game, every player gets 13 cards. And for a 5 player game, every player gets 11 cards. Any unused leftover cards are put aside, and then the starting player chooses one of their cards and plays that to the table, and then gameplay can begin. Let's explain the rules. Alright, so let's say we're playing a 3-player game. Now, the goal of the game is to get rid of all of your cards and have as many of these victory points left at the end of the game as possible. And a full game is played over 3 rounds. So at the start of the first round, the starting player with the shark meeple here will play 1 card, like I said in the setup. So they may want to play a single card in this suit right here and get rid of that. Now, one rule about these wild cards is I cannot play one of these cards on its own without combining it with another card of a single color. So this will always take the color of another card that I play, and they cannot be played on their own. And again, the 1, 2, and 3 cards simply mean that's the number of cards that they count as. So I've played my card. Now the next player in clockwise order has a choice. There's a couple of things you can do on your turn. Firstly, you can either play exactly as many cards as the last played cards, which at the start is of course 1, but of a suit that is not already in play. So they could play any card except for the wild cards, of course, and except for these swallows here, the light blue cards, because that's already on the table. So maybe they want to play their pink heart here, so they simply play that to the table. And the third player can do the same. They can't play this one because it's already been played. They don't have a pink one. Maybe they just want to play this card right here, and that is their card. Now, another option I have is if I cannot play another single card of a suit that hasn't been played already. Well, right now I can, I have plenty of options, but as your hand empties, that might no longer be the case. Then I can still play a single card. So maybe like I've played this single card on my turn here, like this. And now this player wants to get rid of this card maybe, or maybe they don't have any other options. They only have this one that's been played. They have this one that's been played. They don't have a pink one, and maybe they didn't have these anymore. So they want to play this, And it's of course also an option you can do, but whenever I play a card that's already been played, then that will cost me a victory point. So that player has to sacrifice one of their victory point chunks to the middle of the table. Now when you do that, you turn the older card over, so that is simply discarded. And remember, I can always break up groups. I don't have to keep them all together. So green is still an option, dark blue is still an option. So they could have also played simply one of these or one of these, and the next player can do that as well. So a third option you have, instead of playing a single card that hasn't been played or a single card that has been played and pay a victory point, you can also up the ante by going to 2 cards. So you can always increase the number of cards played by 1. So you go from 1 single card to 2 cards, and from 2 cards to 3, etc. Never more than 1 extra card. So maybe this player wants to get rid of, I don't know, these 2 cards at once. So they play these 2 cards, and it doesn't matter if that color has already been played or not. Doesn't matter at all. You simply play these 2 cards. All the played cards get discarded, and you pay a victory point. So there's that. And that means now that I can no longer play a single card. So I now have to either play 2 cards of a different suit, or 2 cards of the same suit and pay a victory point, or 3 cards of any suit. They have to be the same suit that I play, of course, and also pay a victory point. So let's see, I could play this one still, because I also have a wild. So I can combine a wild with this one. This turns green and it's just a single card. So this is 2 green cards, and that does not cost me any victory points. And now this player, well, they have 2 of these, 2 of these. Those have all been played. So maybe they want to play these. And let's see, yeah, they have a +2 and a +3, so they can't use those yet. And well, maybe they do want to break up one of these sets, because then they can later combine one of the remaining ones with the wild cards. So they want to play this, and that doesn't cost any victory points. And play continues like that. You just empty your hand, you play as many cards as you can. Sometimes you need to pay a victory point, sometimes you don't. And at some point, you may not want to continue anymore, or maybe you can't continue anymore. And that's the 4th option, and that is dropping anchor. So when you drop anchor, you simply pass. And when you pass, you place all of your remaining hand cards. Maybe I only had a few left in my hand. You place those face down in front of you. And additionally, if you weren't the last person to have to pass, you regain any of your victory points. So if I had earlier spent victory points, I just take all of those back. So passing early might not lose you any victory points that you spent earlier. And as soon as all but 1 player has dropped anchor, there's an immediate reset. So any players that dropped anchor, let's just remove these cards, and let's say this player dropped anchor, got their their victory points back, and this is the last player playing, then the game immediately resets. The remaining player cannot continue all by themselves, nor do they regain their spent victory points. At some point, somebody has got to lose victory points, so these are gone. Any remaining cards that were played lastly in the middle of the table are also removed to the discard pile. And then all the players who did drop anchor and still have cards left in front of them, they pick up those cards, take them back into their hand, and the last remaining player takes the shark token and is the starting player. So then, if they also had any cards left, they play another single card. So you play a single card, this player takes back all of their cards, and play continues. So maybe I didn't have these cards anymore. Let's say this is what I was left with. And now I get to play a single card. Maybe I want to play this one, so I play that card. This player is up, they play a single card. Maybe they want to play this card, etc., etc. And so you keep playing like this. Sometimes you need to reset, sometimes you don't, until 1 player has played all of their hand cards. If you are the first empty-handed player, you announce that clearly. And if any other player has to remind you to do so, you chunk one of your victory points in the middle of the table. But you will obviously notice when you've played all of your cards. Then you finish the round, you keep on playing until it would be the turn with the player with the shark again. And at that point, every player chucks one victory point chunk into the middle of the table for each of their unplayed hand cards. So obviously the player who managed to finish the game by playing all of their cards on the table, everything's gone. Then the other players check how many they have left. Maybe they have just a few cards left. That means in this case 3 cards left. That's 3 victory points gone. And this player may have just had 1 card left or whatever, and they lose 1 victory point. Then all of those victory points are discarded and the game is reset. So then you pick up all of the cards again, everything, all the discarded cards, all the cards that were left over at the start of the game. You give all 55 cards another shuffle and you just start again, and you do that 3 times, so 3 full games. And at the end of those 3 games, the player with the most victory point chunks left is the winner. Alternatively, on some rare occasions, it can also happen that one of the player completely runs out of victory chunks before the 3rd round, so after the 1st or the 2nd round. Then you simply end early and see who has the most chunks left. And in the case of a tie, the tied player who had fewer unplayed hand cards at the end of the final round. So in other cases, the player who just had to chuck fewer victory chunks into the middle of the table wins the game. And if it's still a tie, then all tied players win. And those are all the rules for Sail or Die. Let's go to my final thoughts. All right, my final thoughts on Sail or Die by Andreas Preiss from Loosey Goosey Games, who I'd like to thank for donating a copy to review. Let's start with the components. So they're just a bunch of cards and these colored crystals, and particularly nice is of course this wooden shark token that is the first player marker. Very cool. But the cards are of a very nice quality. They're nice and thick. They don't have a linen finish. They're smooth, but they look really nice, and they're pretty good. And they're printed very brightly in bright colors. And these things are also pretty nice to have, these victory point chunks, as they're called, in different colors. So every player has their own color. The artwork is, in my opinion, quite funny. It's very tongue-in-cheek. At first glance, you'll see all these sailor tattoos, right? With the anchor and the shark and the swallows and the roses and the hearts and all that kind of old-fashioned sailor tattoo stuff. I guess that's where it gets the name Sail or Die. But each and every one of these tattoo designs has butts in it, which I think is hilarious. It's very tongue-in-cheek, so I kind of like the artwork. It's just very silly. The theme isn't really there. I mean, again, it's sailor tattoos, I guess, Sail or Die, but it has nothing to do with the gameplay. So the theme, there isn't really a theme here. So no extra points for that. The gameplay, though, I think is very clever. It's simple, it's quick, it's a good little filler. You're just playing cards. And if you've ever played Scout by Oink Games, where you have a hand of cards, but you don't change their order, but you also have to make groups and trump other groups and make better groups, etc. This is kind of like a simplified version of that. You have all of these cards, and first you're playing one card of a suit, somebody else plays one card of a different suit, and another card of a different suit, etc., etc., until somebody decides either to play a single card of a suit that's been played and play a chunk, lose a chunk of victory, or up the ante by going to 2 cards, and then everybody plays 2 cards, 2 cards, 2 cards, and then it's 3, and then it's 4, and you're trying to get rid of all of your cards, because if everybody has passed at the end, dropped anchor, and you've got cards left, those cost points. So you want to get rid of as many as you can. But if you drop anchor before the other players, before the round ends, you get your victory points back. So it might be a tactical idea, if you just have a couple of cards left, to just drop anchor. And then those cards will cost you victory points, but you will get back what you used. So it's not a bad idea to use those victory points to up the ante, to go to 2 or 3 or 4 cards, to just get rid of more and more cards, even if it costs you. Because if you stop before the rest, you get those points back. So there's this balance of looking for the point where you want to still keep playing, or play more cards, or keep a few, or, you know, just drop anchor, or keep on going. And I think that's pretty fun. And it's not difficult. It's pretty, you'll get how this plays really fast. Like I said, it's a pretty light filler game, but it is fun. And you have these games, these wild cards, which are all the cards, but you can't play them on their own. You have to play them with another card. So get rid of these, because if you are stuck with these, you can't play them. So even if you have a large group of the same suit, and you're like, hey, I can use these to play 3 or even 4 of the same kind, it's not that important. Just get rid of one of them early on. If that's the suit that hasn't been played yet, break up that group, play 1 or 2, because you can use those wild cards with the remainder later. So you really have to take that into account as well. Well, pretty fun. I enjoyed playing this. It's quick, it's fun, and you kind of want to go again and again. And you play this over a number of rounds. So yeah, it doesn't overstay its welcome. I would rather say, you know, after one full game, you might want to try again. And it just looks very colorful on the table, all of these tattoos with the butts in it. I think that's hilarious. So yeah, enjoyable game. Replayability is all right. I mean, just a quick card game, so you can replay it as many times as you still enjoy playing it, I guess. You just shuffle the cards and go again. That's basically that. And there is no language dependency either, because they're just pictures on colored cards. You have all of these 7 different colored suits, and you have the wild cards and your tokens, and that's pretty much it. So no language needed at all. You get the rules. This box had them in German and in English. I'm sure you can download the rules in different languages as well, but it's very simple. And once you know how to play the game, you don't need to know anything else. You just have the cards and the colors, and that's it. So fully language independent. In the end, I enjoyed this. I'm giving this a thumbs up. Think it's fun to at least try and see if you like it. Now, if you like this video, also please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. That really helps the channel. And also check out my Patreon page by clicking the link in the description below or the icon at the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time on Board Game Heaven.